Hey everyone, this is Meyer, and what I'm going to be doing in this video is showing you how to use the Resynthesis feature in Icarus to resample and chop up your different drum loops. This is going to be the sound we're creating. What I've taken is a percussion loop and then using the beat slice to actually slice it around and add some effects to it. Alright, so to go ahead and get started, what I'm going to do is duplicate this init patch and just go ahead and find this one and call this, maybe give this an icon and call this loop 1 and give this a color. And what we're going to do here is we want to use the Resynthesis page to chop up the loop. So what I'm going to do is click on Resynthesis and beat slice drum loop 16 steps, which is what it's going to do is slice the sample into 16 different waveforms, use the wavetable synthesis to do this, and then basically phase map the wave position to an LFO. So I'm going to choose this and I'm going to go into my folder and I'm just going to choose a percussion loop. I think this is one. Yeah, this is good. So we're going to do this, and as soon as we put it in, basically what's going to happen, it's chopped up the loop and basically given us a phase along with LFO1. Now the first thing I'm going to do is turn the key track off because I want to be able to just press any key. I don't want this pitching it around. You may want it to do that, and in which case you can keep key tracking on, but I'm going to turn it off by clicking this button. And you can also pitch it around. I like that. I think that sounds pretty good. I'm going to pitch it down a little more because I want to be able to use this in terms of its as a low mid range here in this setting. So now that we've done this, what ends up happening is we can actually use this wave position to kind of juggle the beat around. Now LFO1 is mapped to do this by this linear ramp, but what I like using is using the step LFO to do this because I think this allows you to change the position in a way where you can kind of do this beat juggling without needing to do anything too crazy. We have to use the step LFO because the multi-segment envelope generator and the way this is chopped is using the arpeggiator. So what happens is each of these will trigger each sample every 16th step, and then what this will do is adjust the phase, and each of these will be kind of an individual slice of the drum sample. So we're kind of using granular synthesis, but it's on a beat sync loop where each grain is basically a sample in the loop that's chopped up. So what I'm going to do here is set all of these to about 0 or about 50% as much as possible. And what I'm going to do under the matrix is assign the step LFO to the wave position. So I'm going to click step LFO, click and drag it to wave, and there we go. Now, what I want to do for this matrix source is rather than have this be plus or minus, or plus, I'm going to use step plus or minus. The reason for this is this will allow me to juggle the beats around. So right now, when this is set to 0, it's going to play the loop straight. But at any given position, if I go, this will basically look forward in the loop, and this will look behind its current position to replay different drum samples. And this will allow me to sort of chop up the loop and juggle it around. Now, what I want to do is make sure this is also set to the right speed. So I'm going to set this to BPM and bring this down to 1/8 click like this. And now what we can do is go ahead and have some fun with just playing around with this. One of the cool things you can do is you can even set this to be a little bit slower. Okay, I think that sounds pretty good. And now what we can do is use the filter to actually do some other cool stuff. So what I'm going to choose is under the equalizer, I'm going to choose an EQ peak medium. And what I'm just going to simply do, use this resonance to boost the gain and just adjust this cutoff. So we'll just use LFO 3 for this. So we'll just go ahead and bring this up. Once again, I think really helping the loop, maybe I'll even saturate it a little bit. One of the cool things about this is you have full control over the filter and all this modulation here when you're using the loop, which is really cool as opposed to just using it in your digital audio workstation. So let's go over to the effects. And one of the things I want to do is put on a delay. I'm going to use a ping pong delay, and I want to really bump up the feedback to get some movement as this thing is sweeping around. I think it's really going to help. Yeah, I think that's sounding pretty good. Maybe I'll back off on the feedback a little bit, and then I'm going to turn this to reverb and maybe just put this in a little bit of a space. Honestly, that's sounding pretty cool. So what I'm going to do, go ahead and create a new channel and then just call this loop 1 and paste this in like so. And the cool thing about this method is it allows you to create these loops without needing to worry about the tempo. It'll actually chop it to the right tempo, and it's not doing any pitch stretching or anything like that, which I think really helps it just kind of stay the way you'd want it to stay. So let's go ahead and do this and just put it in here. And maybe this is moving a little bit too fast, so I may bring this to be a little bit slower. Sounding good. And the last thing I want to do is just set a low pass filter so that when I move this mod wheel up, I can filter it in and out. So let's go ahead and do that. Map the mod wheel to the filter cutoff in the positive direction. So when I open the filter, so let's go ahead and set this at the minimum value we would want it to be. And this is going to be the maximum. Like so. So now we can use this to filter this in and out. So wiggle the macro, tools, last tweaked, create automation clip. And what we see here under this loop is the actual MIDI that would be here to modulate it. So let me just have this going as well, and we want this just open all the way, and we can filter this loop out as well when this thing starts to kind of fade out. So let me go ahead and merge this with the above track. And what I can do is go ahead and map this to the mixer like so. Sounding good. The last thing I want to do is emulate this thing being sidechain compressed because we're going to be playing it with the kick. So what I'm going to use is multi-segment envelope 1 on the volume. And what I'm simply going to do here is turn this down and basically turn this to the maximum point that I would want it to be, which perhaps was up here, and then just simply draw in my sidechain curve, kind of like using something like LFO tool. So what I typically like doing is something like this, and then just bringing this up. This would be the amount. So this is just completely on. Let me go ahead and solo this. This is the speed, so this should be what is modulating it in the positive direction. Oops, needed. And maybe I need to set this to ±1. Actually, I like doing it this way because then we can go louder and quieter. So we can just set the volume. So this would be 50% would be the sort of, I guess you could argue the standard value, and then you're either going louder or quieter. So let me go ahead and set the speed to 1/4. Actually, I think. Yeah, that's sounding good. And then as we fade it out, like so, sounding pretty good.